said you the logo?
It is, yeah.
Can we see the side by side?
Sure. I don't know if it was intended to be me. My name's McDowell. I'm the owner of the Complete Paddler. I've been canoeing and kayaking for about 30 years and a kayak instructor for about 20 years as well. So I was living on the West Coast when I started to get into outdoor sports. And that's how I eventually got into kayaking. I kept moving further west, and once I ran out of mountains and I ended up in Victoria, there was a lot of water, so I decided to start up kayaking. I obviously like to be outdoors. I like to teach. I like to get out and show people new areas to paddle and introduce people to new things. I got into the paddling retail business because I wanted to stay in the Toronto area, and there wasn't a lot of guiding here at the time. So I decided to apply to Evergreen Canoes since it was the only retail store around and there was no guiding opportunities. So I applied there, and at the time kayaking was just starting to take off, so they decided they wanted a kayak instructor, and I was their first kayak instructor. So that's how I got a job at Evergreen Canoes in this location, and eventually that's how I became to own the store. It wasn't necessarily that Toronto was lacking something, it was just me wanting to stay here. And it just turned out that Toronto was lacking something. There's lots of challenges of paddling in an urban environment like traffic. Just getting to the put-in can be sometimes time consuming because you have to travel across the city. From the west end of Toronto to the east end of Toronto to a put-in can take you an hour during rush hour. So that's a big challenge for us. If we want to go paddling after work or as soon as the store closes, we want to get out as quick as possible, and we want to launch from the other side of the city. It's a big time delay. I think the majority of the population does not know what is out there as far as rivers and lakes, especially in urban areas. There's lots of urban paddling in Toronto. There's 9 river systems in the Greater Toronto area, and there's Lake Ontario. I would probably change everything about the Toronto waterfront. Pollution is a big problem, but access is the biggest problem right now, I find. There's only 3 or 4 spots to access Lake Ontario safely, especially downtown, where we have a lot of our population. People do not know how to access the water, even just to go swimming. So I think if it was more accessible, more people would be into doing water sports. One of the programs that we developed was with the TRCA called 10 Waters. And that's how we came up with the name 10 Waters, was 9 rivers and 1 lake. So this 10 Waters program, it tries to target people that wouldn't usually think of paddling or have never been out on the water before. So we run guided kayak trips over to Tommy Thompson Park or through the Humber River and some of the parklands that the Toronto Region and Conservation Area own. So we can get them introduced there to parklands through the waterways. And I think they're more willing to get involved and protect those lands once they know they exist and experience them for themselves. Every year we do a Humber River cleanup. So we go into the Humber River and we partner up with one of the junk removal companies. They set up a truck on site and we remove about a ton of garbage every year. We find a lot of coffee cups and plastic, all different types of plastic in the river. And I think that part has gotten worse over the years. It hasn't gotten better. There's less chemicals in the water, but there's more pollution just from your everyday citizen in the water. And some of the garbage that we find is interesting. You'll find big flat screen TVs in the middle of the Humber River and car tires, the usual, shopping carts, stuff like that. I think in some ways it's gotten a lot better as far as certain types of pollution, but other types of pollution's gotten worse. I'm 46 years old, so I've seen it go through a couple of different phases. When I was very young, it was going through a very terrible stage. And then as I got older, there was a lot more pollution, but there wasn't the climate change that we're experiencing now. So I guess one of the nastiest things I've seen on the river was the Credit River, and we found a stuffed animal that had been submerged in the river that we tried to pull out, and it had been in there for some time. So when we pulled it out, it was not only soaking wet, but it was a big stuffed animal. It was probably 6 feet long. So it was a big stuffed teddy bear, and it was moldy, it was smelly, and it was heavy. And it took 2 of us to drag it out of the water, but we finally got it out of the water, and it must have weighed 200 pounds. And yeah, we tried to dispose of it instead of letting it sit in the river. But that was probably the nastiest thing I found. That was nasty. Yeah. Definitely want to see more kids involved. I think that's an area that we need to grow. I think that 20-somethings has increased in recent years, which is great to see, because when I first started here, there was nobody coming in except for older white men, and there was no women coming in, there was no minorities, there was nothing. So that's changed over the years, which is great to see. The response is definitely positive, and they want to get out more. So that's when they get more involved with some of the programs that we're doing. So like our Learn to Kayak program, courses like that. We offer pool classes, we offer lake classes, so we can get people more safety conscious and get them prepared to go out on their own after taking a tour or being introduced to it by someone else. So I think those things are changing the way people are using the waterfront, and more people will be able to access it in the future, and I think it's just going to do nothing but grow. I think it has a huge future in Toronto because of the Portland revitalization projects and because of new boat developments. There's now kayaks and canoes that can collapse, so you can put them in your closet and travel on the subway with them. You don't need a car anymore, and you don't need a garage to store your boat. So someone that's living in a condo downtown can own a canoe or a kayak and take the subway to the waterfront and go for a paddle out on the lake, come back and throw their boat in their closet. The best part is seeing the excitement in new paddlers' eyes when they get to see a new area or get to get out on the water for the first time. They get super excited, and I love to see that in other people, because it reminds me how I felt when I first started as well. I don't think I would have done anything differently, no. It's a great thing to be able to talk about what you love all day, even if I don't get outside for a couple of days on end, or if I've got a busy week or two. You know, I obviously would like to get out, and when I do get out, I really appreciate it, and I'm getting paid to do it at the same time, so that's fantastic.